Okay, so here's the vacuum brake booster from Jeep Cherokee XJ. What we're going to do is we're going to adapt it to work on a earlier full-size Jeep like this 1968 J3000 now. I learned about this through the full-size Jeep network. One of the members said that they were using a vacuum brake booster on their early full-size Jeep and it was stopping 35-inch tires, no problem. So that's kind of where we learned about this, but I figured I'd make a video just to kind of add some educational stuff for people that might be doing it. So first thing I did was I measured the brake booster here to make sure our bolt spacing was, or to figure out what it was. It turned out to be 3.5 inches, and then I found these brake booster brackets for an early Plymouth that just slide right in. So that's what we're going to be using. What we'll have to do is this will mount to where the current master cylinder, the 2-bolt master cylinder is. And then we'll just have to make sure that our connecting rod is long enough to make up for this like 1.5 inches or whatever of spacing that it's going to give the entire assembly through the firewall. So basically just wanted to give you guys a rundown on some of the equipment you're going to be needing. I'm pretty sure this is about it. We may end up having to weld a small piece of metal in there to make the connecting rod a little bit longer, but we'll see. All right, we got the proportioning valve separated from the rest of the booster and master cylinder assembly. It was a 12 millimeter line wrench to get those off, and then I believe a 13 for the back bolts here. Let's see what else. I've got it soaking in kerosene just because it's kind of dingy in there, you can see. So just trying to clean it up a little bit. And then next step is going to be to come over here and separate the master cylinder from the firewall. You can see back there, those are those 2 bolts I'm talking about on either side. Obviously gonna have to bend some new hard lines. I'm hoping that there's gonna be enough clearance for me to just leave that proportioning valve where it is, so I don't have to screw around with bending 3 new hard lines down there, and I can just kind of leave that and then pull this master cylinder and then bolt the new pieces up and just bend 2 pieces of hard line to go back into the proportioning valve back there. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, basically thinking I'm going to drain this master cylinder, pop those 2 flare nuts off, and then pull that out and then disconnect it from the proportioning valve back there as well. So that's basically the game plan. All right, master cylinder is drained. I use this here turkey baster thing. Just I'm gonna shove some paper towels down in there, and I think I'm just gonna disconnect those 2 hard lines there. Leave it hooked up here, and then first I'm gonna take those 2 bolts off and see if I can fish it free. Then take those off, should be good to go. And to get these off, I'm using the Extendo-Matic 5000 on my DeWalt. There it is, that's all there is to it. You just gotta have a 14-inch long extension. All right, so the master cylinder is free. You can see I've just got support with a bungee cord. I took those 2 bolts off, and then these fittings are loosened, so I'm fixing to just put this whole assembly inside this Kroger bag. I did drain the fluid out. And one other thing to mention, you're gonna need to disconnect your push rod from the back of the brake pedal. So let's see, that is gonna be, I'm trying to see the best way to look at it. There's the push rod. You can see I've already got mine disconnected there, but that's the top where it connects. So this is the top of the brake pedal. And then you have these 2 pieces right here. There's a retainer ring, and then the spring that sits in the side of the groove on the swing arm of the gas pedal. So pretty straightforward. I mean, it's probably been like really an hour of solid work to get to this point, so not too bad so far. So going to make sure these brackets fit when I pull the master cylinder off, and yeah, we'll go from there. Maybe we'll even test fit this. The only thing stopping me from putting it all together is I'm waiting. I got to get some nuts to go on this, and then I lost my 3/16 inch tube flaring die, so I got one of those coming on Amazon. Okay, so here's where we're at with the brake booster power brake conversion. You can see I've got those brackets lined up, and I was able to keep the factory placement of my, well, not factory, the where I had it beforehand, this proportioning valve right here. I don't know if it's gonna still be able to work with the booster once that gets installed, but yeah, basically that's that. You can see back in through the firewall, and then we'll connect the new booster to the pedal. So far, the only real hiccup that's not a direct bolt-on thing that I found is this connecting rod is has a little bit more larger of a hole than the XJ brake booster one does. So this one's like 0.47, this one's like 0.64 or something like that. So I'm just gonna use this stepped drill bit and drill it out to a 5/8 hole, and hopefully that should give me enough clearance to yeah, get the brake pedal post back through there. All right, I kind of got it set up on a jig of sorts with this piece of wood and a 1-inch socket. Okay, this would be a good time to show off my goldenrod oiler. I'm gonna use a little bit of oil on there just to preserve that stepped bit. But yeah, that's basically the situation. So this one's pretty cool, vintage, you know. So I usually just give it not a lot, you know. It'll pump out pretty good. That's bar and chain oil in there, I can already see. But yeah, just gonna try and do that to preserve the bit a little bit. All right, here we are back under the hood of old girl. You can see we got the vacuum booster mounted up. It actually fit perfectly. So very little hassle there. It fits right in the same master, or the booster fits right in the firewall. It bolts up really nice. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of a tight squeeze back there, but everything's good. I did have to take my proportioning valve off, so now that's sitting over here. So what we're gonna do is get rid of these lines and flare some new ones, and then mount that like more closely to this. Let's get a little peek up under here at how it mounts up to the brake pedal swing arm. Let's see if I can get that a little bit closer up in there. You can see it fits right in there. Right back up in here where I'm trying to reach my hand, but it's not working. Right there. Okay, so the proportioning valve that I had from Willwood did not end up working because the mounting bracket had it mounted like basically right here, and there was not enough room for the hard lines to clear the wheel well here. So I've ended up, well, this is the XJ proportioning valve, as you can see there. This should work. It was from a disc drum setup. It just, you know, won't have the adjustability, which is really fine. I didn't even need it for that anyways. It just didn't have disc drum proportioning valve on it when I originally did the disc brake conversion. So I had to add that Willwood in there, but you know, this will work just as fine, and it's disc drum. So yeah, that's that. Basically everything's bolted up, pedals mounted. I do have to put the return spring back on there still, but the only thing we got left to do is flare these hard lines and get them hooked back up to the connecting points down there for the runners, or, you know, there's proper terminology, but basically we just got to hook all the hard lines up, and then bleed the master cylinder, bleed the brakes, and it should be good to go. There's also a little bit of under pedal stuff that's got to go on too, but we'll get to that. So now we're going to go over the stuff that you're going to need for the hardline portion of this. So I've got 3 25-inch pieces of Nycop brake line here that I got a 25-foot roll of it on Amazon for, I think I give like 13 or 14 bucks for it. So pretty affordable stuff right here. So I've already cut them. You're also going to need to deburr the ends, and that's where this is going to come in. This is a pipe cutter or tubing cutter or whatever you want to call it, and then it also has a deburring tool right here. So you just stick this in the end, twist it around, get all the burrs out, obviously. You're also going to need some flare nuts. So these go on here, and this is what attaches to your brake line. For the flares, there's a couple ways you can do this. I've used these in the past, and they honestly just suck and you leave you pissed off. So I'm not going to recommend this method. In a pinch, I guess it might work. I've had a couple of successful flares, but I've also had a lot of unsuccessful flares. So this time around, I've decided to try this Titan 3/16 double flaring tool. Got a lot of good reviews. It's much more precise. The flare is forced up against the side of this die basically, instead of just being free like here. So we'll see how that goes. And then last thing you're gonna need is a tubing bender. So you can see it's got the different degrees of bends. So that's just about everything. And yeah, we're gonna get some lines flared up and get this thing hooked up. All right, so I got the rear brakes hooked up. That's the rear brake portion of the proportioning valve, and you can see it goes down in there, down to where it connects at the rear line. So just using some NICOP. It's not pretty, but it should get the job done, you know. Just trying to do it mainly for testing purposes. I might end up redoing this at some point because I want to put power steering in it. But one thing at a time, you know. I thought about doing both while the booster and everything was out of the way, because you got to take the steering shaft off down there. But I was like, well, then you start getting into situations where the whole truck's tore apart. You don't know what's wrong with it. So yeah, just gonna do one thing at a time, and if I want to put the power steering in a couple months, I'll just bend some new hard lines to clear. So that's where we're at. Still got to do the front hard lines here, but shouldn't be too bad. So let's see what we can do. So here's a little sample of what the Titan flaring tool will do. My camera's having a hard time focusing, but it's a pretty nice flare. I wouldn't hesitate to use that, and it's a lot easier than using that other style of flare. And yeah, I'd say it works pretty good. All right, little update from down under. You can see I've got the new copper brake lines plumbed. There's 3 of them total. This one goes to the rear here, front left, and then front right up here. So I actually like it better that they're the copper color. It kind of matches the color of the truck. And then up there, you can see the proportioning valve where they're plugged into. Sorry, it's kind of dark and my camera skills aren't that good, but you get the gist.